A small boy races after a gleaming luxury car, his tiny legs pumping, heart shattering as his twin brother's tear-streaked face fades through the tinted window. Just weeks ago, they'd lost their parents. Now, the world tears them apart. Jayden's knees hit the gravel, sobs echoing in the dust. But a bond forged in blood whispers of reunion. Years later, fate pulls them into a clash no one could predict. What secrets lie buried in their past? Will truth heal or destroy? Stay to the end. You won't believe how their story unfolds. Hit subscribe, share where you're listening from, and when. What's your guess for their reunion? Let's dive in. The Chicago orphanage reeked of damp plaster and despair, its walls peeling like old wounds. In a corner, two 4-year-old boys, Jayden and Jordan Carter, curled together on a sagging cot, their world reduced to the warmth of each other's breath. The twins, mirror images with wide brown eyes and faint freckles, clutched a tattered toy car, its wheels long broken. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the window panes, but inside, their whispered promises drowned out the chaos. "We'll always be together, right, Jordan?" Jayden's voice trembled, his fingers tight around his brother's. "Forever," Jordan chirped, his grin bright despite the gloom. "Like superheroes, Jayden. Pow! Pow!" He waved the car, mimicking an explosion, and Jayden giggled, the sound a fleeting spark in the dark. Their parents were gone, stolen by a screech of tires and twisted metal on a rain-slicked road. The memory was a blur, siren wails, cold hands pulling them from the wreckage. But the twins had each other, an anchor in the storm. The orphanage, with its stern caregivers and crying children, couldn't break that. Not yet. Footsteps clacked down the hall, sharp and purposeful. Ms. Ellis, the head caregiver, loomed in the doorway, her face etched with exhaustion. "Jayden, Jordan, come. Visitors today." Her tone was clipped, offering no comfort. The twins scrambled up, hands locked. Jayden's heart thudded. Visitors meant hope, or heartbreak. He'd seen other kids leave, some with smiles, others with tears. He squeezed Jordan's hand tighter, his protector's instinct fierce despite his small frame. The courtyard was a patch of cracked concrete, dusted with early frost. A sleek black sedan idled, its chrome glinting under the gray sky. A couple stepped out, Mr. and Mrs. Warren, their tailored coats screaming wealth. The woman's heels clicked like gunfire, her eyes scanning the children lined up like cattle. Mr. Warren stood stiff, a gold watch flashing at his wrist. Jordan tugged Jayden forward, his curiosity outpacing his fear. "Look, Jayden, they're fancy," he whispered, eyes wide. Jayden hung back, mistrust curling in his gut. Something about the Warrens' cold smiles felt wrong. Ms. Ellis gestured at the twins. "Jordan's a joy, always chatting. Jayden's quieter, but they're inseparable." Her voice held a plea, hoping for a double adoption. Mrs. Warren's gaze locked on Jordan. "He's charming," she murmured, her smile tight. "Perfect for us." She glanced at Jayden, then away, dismissing him like a scuffed shoe. "One child is enough." Jayden's stomach dropped. "No!" he cried, yanking Jordan behind him. "We stay together. You can't take him." His voice cracked, raw with panic. Jordan's bravado faltered. "It's okay, Jayden," he said, voice small. "Maybe they'll want us both?" But his eyes shimmered with doubt. Mr. Warren waved a hand, impatient. "We've decided. Jordan, sign the papers." His tone brooked no argument. Miss Ellis hesitated, her lips thinning, but she nodded. "Come, Jordan." She reached for him, her grip firm. "No!" Jayden lunged, wrapping his arms around Jordan. "He's my brother." Tears burned his cheeks, hot and furious. Jordan clung back, his own sobs rising. The caregiver pried them apart, her strength unyielding. Jordan's fingers slipped from Jayden's, their connection snapping like a frayed thread. "Jayden!" Jordan wailed, his voice piercing the air as Miss Ellis dragged him toward the car. Jayden broke free, bolting after them. "Jordan, don't go!" His sneakers slapped the pavement, his breath hitching. The Warrens ushered Jordan into the sedan, the door slamming with a finality that crushed Jayden's chest. He pounded the window, glimpsing Jordan's tear-streaked face, his small hands pressed against the glass. "Jordan!" Jayden screamed, his voice raw. The car's engine purred, pulling away. He chased it, legs burning, heart hammering. The courtyard's edge loomed, gravel skittering underfoot. His toe caught a crack, and he pitched forward, knees slamming into the ground. Pain flared, a gash opening on his neck, blood trickling warm against his skin. The car vanished around the corner, Jordan's face a fading ghost. Jayden curled into the dust, sobs racking his small body. "Come back," he whimpered, the words lost to the wind. Miss Ellis stood frozen, her face a mask of pity, but she didn't move to comfort him. The other children stared, their whispers a dull hum. Jayden's world shrank to the ache in his chest, the toy car still clutched in his fist. He didn't know how long he lay there, the cold seeping into his bones. When Miss Ellis finally coaxed him inside, his eyes were dull, the spark snuffed out. Days later, the Millers arrived, a kind but weary couple from Chicago's South Side. They saw Jayden's quiet strength and chose him, offering a home filled with love, but little else. As they drove away, Jayden pressed his forehead to the window, the scar on his neck a fresh reminder of loss. He didn't speak, his heart locked away where Jordan used to live. Jordan, meanwhile, was swept into a penthouse glittering with chandeliers and marble. The Warrens dressed him in tailored clothes, enrolled him in elite schools, and molded him into their perfect heir. But at night, alone in a room too big, Jordan hugged his pillow, a vague ache gnawing at him. He couldn't name it, but it felt like half his soul was missing. The twins' paths diverged, one paved with struggle, the other with privilege. Yet fate, relentless and cunning, wove their threads toward a collision neither could foresee. The scar on Jayden's neck, mirrored on Jordan's, was more than a mark. It was a promise, etched in blood, that their story wasn't over. The years spun forward, relentless, carving Jayden and Jordan Carter into men shaped by worlds apart. Jayden, now in his mid-20s, hunched over a battered desk in a South Side Chicago apartment. The glow of a flickering lamp casting shadows across his law books. The room was a cramped sanctuary of ambition, its walls papered with dreams born from loss. His adoptive mother, Mrs. Miller, slipped in with a steaming mug of coffee, her eyes soft with pride but lined with worry. "You'll burn out, Jayden," she said, setting the mug down. Her voice carried the weight of late shifts at the diner. He glanced up, his jaw tight, the scar on his neck a faint silver line in the dim light. "Can't stop, Ma. Gotta make it. For us." His words held an unspoken echo. For someone I lost. The memory of Jordan's tear-streaked face haunted him, a ghost driving him to claw his way out of the shadows. Jayden's childhood had been a forge of hardship. The Millers' love was fierce, but their means were thin. Meals stretched, clothes patched. He'd fought bullies in alleyways, his fists as quick as his mind, each bruise a lesson in survival. A teacher saw his spark, nudging him toward books, and Jayden seized them, earning a scholarship to law school. Now at a pro bono firm, he was a rising star, his name whispered in courtrooms where giants fell. Across the city, Jordan commanded a sleek office atop a glass tower, the Chicago skyline sprawling beneath him. At the same age, he pitched his tech startup, Carter Innovations, to a room of investors, his charisma a polished blade. "Our app will redefine connectivity," he declared, his voice smooth, eyes glinting with hunger. "Invest now, and we'll own the future." The room erupted in applause, checks scribbled before he left the podium. Jordan's life glittered. Elite schools, tailored suits, a penthouse that screamed success. The Warrens had sculpted him into their heir, their expectations a gilded cage. Yet beneath the polish, a void gnawed. At a gala, surrounded by champagne flutes and fawning elites, he caught his reflection in a mirrored wall. His hand brushed the scar on his neck, a faint mark from a childhood fall he couldn't place. "Why do I feel like half of me's gone?" he muttered, the words swallowed by laughter. His adoptive father, Mr. Warren, brushed off his questions. "You're our only child, Jordan," he'd say, his tone final. "Focus on the future." But the ache persisted, a shadow no amount of success could banish. Jayden's days were a grind of justice. In a packed courtroom, he faced a corporate landlord defending a family teetering on eviction. "This family deserves a home," he told the jury, his voice a controlled inferno. "Not to be crushed by greed." His argument sliced through lies, and when the verdict came, victory, cheers erupted. Colleagues clapped his back, but Jayden's eyes stayed distant, searching for a face he'd never find in the crowd. Jordan's nights were a blur of ambition. At a charity auction, he charmed donors, his smile a calculated weapon. "Carter Innovations is about connection," he said, raising a glass. But as cameras flashed, he stepped away, staring at the city's lights. The scar on his neck itched, a reminder of something lost. A guest asked about his past, and he deflected, the void in his chest flaring. "No family stories here," he quipped, but the lie tasted bitter. Jayden's resolve was iron. Late nights he scoured case files, his mind sharp despite exhaustion. Mrs. Miller's voice echoed, "You're enough, son." But he wasn't, not without the brother he'd chased into the dust. His fights in court were for the voiceless, but also for a boy he couldn't save. Each win built his name, whispers of Jayden Carter, the people's lawyer, spreading through Chicago's legal circles. Jordan's empire grew, and his app was downloaded millions of times. Headlines hailed him, "Tech prodigy redefines industry." Yet in his penthouse he paced, restless. He'd asked Mr. Warren about his adoption, only to hit a wall. "You're a Warren now," his father snapped once, eyes hard. Jordan let it drop, but the scar on his neck pulsed, a silent question mark. Jayden's scars, physical and not, fueled him. He kept a faded photo of two toddlers, him and Jordan, tucked in his wallet, its edges worn from years of touch. He didn't know if Jordan was alive, but the hope, fragile as it was, kept him fighting. Jordan's success couldn't fill the hole. At a quiet moment, he traced his scar, a memory flickering, a boy's laughter, a shared fall, a promise broken. He shook it off, but the unease lingered, a thread pulling him toward a truth he didn't yet know. Their lives, so different, were twin orbits, destined to collide. Jayden, the warrior for justice, and Jordan, the king of innovation, moved through Chicago's pulse, unaware of the other's heartbeat. The scars they bore, etched in childhood, were more than marks. They were beacons, guiding them toward a reckoning. Fate, with its cruel precision, waited to thrust them into a battle neither could imagine, where truth would cut deeper than any blade. The Chicago courthouse pulsed with a restless energy, its marble halls echoing with the shuffle of feet and the murmur of anticipation. Jayden Carter, now 34, stood at the plaintiff's table, his suit crisp but modest, a stark contrast to the polished sheen of the defense. His client, Elena Torres, sat beside him, her hands knotted, eyes weary from years of toil at Carter Innovations. Across the room, Jordan Carter, CEO and unwitting twin, leaned back in his chair, his tailored navy suit catching the light. He scanned Jayden with a mix of irritation and curiosity, unaware that the man dismantling his empire shared his blood. The courtroom was a pressure cooker, packed with reporters and spectators hungry for a corporate takedown. Judge Harper, stern behind her gavel, called order, her gaze slicing through the tension. Jayden's pulse thrummed, not from nerves but from purpose. Elena's case, wage theft, unsafe conditions, was his latest crusade, a chance to gut a tech giant's greed. Jordan, confident in his company's integrity, saw the lawsuit as a smear, a hurdle to crush with his high-priced lawyer, Mr. Klein. Jayden stepped forward, his voice steady, a blade wrapped in velvet. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he began, locking eyes with each juror. "Carter Innovations built its fortune on the backs of workers like Elena Torres. They denied her fair wages, ignored her pleas for safety, and discarded her when she dared speak up. Today we expose their greed." His words landed like sparks, igniting murmurs in the gallery. Elena's shoulders straightened, her faith in him a quiet anchor. Mr. Klein rose, smirking. "My client's company is a beacon of progress," he drawled, gesturing at Jordan. "Thousands owe their livelihoods to Carter Innovations. This suit is a baseless attack and will prove it." Jordan nodded, his jaw tight, but his eyes lingered on Jayden. Something in the lawyer's cadence, sharp, unyielding, stirred a phantom memory, too fleeting to grasp. The trial surged into motion. Jayden presented a stack of internal memos, leaked by a whistleblower, detailing ignored safety complaints at Carter Innovations Martino's factories. These documents, he said, voice rising, show executives laughing off hazards, fire risks, faulty machines, while workers suffered. A juror gasped, another scribbled notes. Jordan shifted, his confidence denting as the evidence mounted. He took the stand, his charm a polished weapon. "Mr. Carter," Jayden began, pacing slowly, "you claim to value your employees. Why then did you dismiss reports of unsafe conditions?" His gaze was piercing, searching Jordan's face for cracks. Jordan leaned forward, his tone measured but defensive. "I built opportunities for thousands," he said, his voice carrying the weight of his empire. "Mistakes happen, not malice. We've addressed concerns as they've reached me." His words were smooth, but Jayden's next question cut deeper. "And these emails?" Jayden held up a printout, his voice a controlled fire. "They show you were briefed on hazards a year ago. You chose profit over lives. Why?" The courtroom stilled, every eye on Jordan. Jordan's jaw clenched, the scar on his neck pulsing faintly. "I trusted my team to handle it," he said, but his composure wavered, a flicker of doubt betraying him. Jayden pressed, relentless, each question a hammer strike, exposing cracks in Carter Innovations. Facade. Jordan's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The jury's faces hardened. In a recess, Jayden leaned against a hallway wall, catching his breath. Elena touched his arm, her voice soft. "You're unstoppable, Jayden." "Thank you." He nodded, offering a rare smile, but his mind churned. Jordan's stride, his defiance. Why did they feel like echoes of himself? Jordan in the defense's private room paced. "This guy's killing us," he muttered to Klein. "Who is he?" Klein shrugged, flipping through notes, but Jordan's unease deepened. Jayden's voice, his gestures, tugged at something buried. A playground laugh, a shared secret. He shook it off, chalking it up to stress, but his hand brushed his neck scar, a reflex he couldn't explain. Back in session, Jayden called a former Carter Innovations worker whose testimony painted a grim picture. 16-hour shifts, broken equipment, injuries swept under the rug. The jury's sympathy swelled and Jordan's confidence waned. He whispered to Klein, "We need to hit back harder." But his eyes kept drifting to Jayden, searching for something he couldn't name. As the day closed, Jayden gathered his files, his mind racing. He'd landed blows, but the trial wasn't won yet. He glanced at Jordan, catching a fleeting look. Not just anger, but recognition, raw and unguarded. Jayden's heart stuttered. "Impossible," he thought, shoving the feeling down. He turned to Elena, promising, "We're close. They won't bury you again." Jordan watched Jayden leave, his lawyer's voice fading to a hum. The lawyer's intensity, his moral fire. It was like staring into a mirror, warped by time. His scar itched, a silent alarm. He stepped into the hall, catching Jayden's silhouette vanishing around a corner. "What the hell is this?" he muttered, his world tilting. The trial was a battlefield, but beneath its surface, a deeper war brewed. Jayden and Jordan, bound by blood they didn't yet know, circled each other like stars on a collision course. Their scars, twin marks of a shared past, pulsed with secrets ready to break free. The courtroom's drama was only the beginning, a spark that would soon ignite a truth neither was prepared to face. The Chicago courthouse thrummed with the weight of a trial nearing its end, the air thick with anticipation and unspoken truths. Jayden Carter stood before the jury, his voice a quiet storm, weaving Elena Torres's story into a tapestry of injustice. "Carter Innovations didn't just fail Elena," he said, his gaze sweeping the room. "They betrayed her trust, her labor, her dignity. You have the power to make it right." His words landed with precision, each syllable a plea for justice, igniting nods among the jurors. Elena's eyes glistened, her faith in him unshakable. Across the aisle, Jordan Carter sat rigid, his tailored suit a thin armor against the onslaught. His empire teetered, millions at stake, but his mind wasn't on the verdict. Jayden's presence gnawed at him, those sharp eyes, that unyielding cadence. It was like facing a shadow of himself, a mirror reflecting something he couldn't grasp. His lawyer, Mr. Klein, scribbled notes, oblivious to Jordan's distraction. The scar on Jordan's neck pulsed, a restless echo of a past he couldn't name. Judge Harper's gavel cracked, signaling a recess. The courtroom exhaled, spectators buzzing as they spilled into the halls. Jayden gathered his files, his focus razor sharp, but a prickle of unease lingered. Jordan's defiance, his fleeting glances, why did they stir something deep, like a memory clawing to surface? He pushed it aside, turning to Elena. "We're almost there," he murmured, his voice steady. She nodded, clutching his hand, her gratitude a quiet tether. Jordan lingered at the defense table, his eyes tracking Jayden's exit. "He's too good," he muttered to Klein, who shrugged, muttering about appeals. But Jordan wasn't thinking strategy. He stepped into the corridor, the marble cool under his polished shoes, and caught sight of Jayden adjusting his tie near a window. The lawyer's collar shifted, revealing a faint silver scar on his neck, a jagged line, eerily familiar. Jordan froze, his breath catching. His hand drifted to his own neck, tracing an identical mark. "Hey!" Jordan called, his voice sharper than intended. Jayden turned, brow furrowed, his guard up. "That scar," Jordan said, stepping closer. "Where'd you get it?" Jayden's eyes narrowed, suspicion flaring. "Fell as a kid," he said curtly. "Why do you care?" His tone was a challenge, but his pulse quickened. Jordan's intensity, the way he stared, it was unnerving, like peering into a fractured reflection. Jordan tilted his head, exposing his own scar, the mark atwin to Jayden's. "Because I've got one just like it," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. Time seemed to stall, the hallway's hum fading. A memory flashed. Two boys tumbling in a dusty yard. Laughter cut by pain, a shared fall binding them closer. Jayden's heart lurched, the image so vivid it stole his breath. "That's impossible," Jayden stammered, stepping back, his files nearly slipping. Jordan's face mirrored his shock, eyes wide, searching. The scars weren't just marks. They were keys, unlocking a door long sealed. Before either could speak, the bailiff's voice boomed, summoning them back. The trial's final moments loomed, but the world had shifted. Jayden returned to his table, his mind a whirlwind. Elena's hopeful gaze grounded him, but Jordan's scar burned in his vision, a question he couldn't silence. Jordan took his seat, his lawyer's droning strategy lost to the roar in his head. Who is he? The thought consumed him, drowning out the courtroom's pulse. Jayden's closing argument was a masterstroke, his voice weaving passion and evidence into an unbreakable chain. "Let this verdict send a message," he urged, "that no company, no matter how powerful, can crush the powerless." The jury leaned forward, captivated, their decision all but sealed. Jordan watched, not as a CEO, but as a man unmoored, Jayden's words resonating in a place deeper than pride. The jury retired to deliberate, leaving the courtroom in a tense hush. Jayden sat with Elena, offering quiet reassurance, but his eyes flicked to Jordan, catching a raw, unguarded look, not anger, but something akin to longing. Jordan's hand brushed his scar again, a reflex betraying his turmoil. Hours later, Judge Harper reconvened the court. The jury's foreman stood, voice steady. "We find in favor of the plaintiff, Elena Torres, and award damages of $10 million. The gallery erupted, cheers mingling with gasps. Elena sobbed, hugging Jayden, her words choked. "You gave me my life back," she whispered. He smiled, but his triumph was hollow, his mind locked on Jordan. Jordan stood, his face a mask of defeat, but his eyes sought Jayden's. The verdict stung, but the scar's revelation cut deeper. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring Klein's protests, and caught Jayden in the hallway. "We need to talk," he said, voice urgent, almost pleading. Jayden hesitated, his instincts screaming caution, but the scar's truth was undeniable. "Not here," he said, glancing at the swarm of reporters. "Tonight, McGinney's bar." 8 o'clock. Jordan nodded, a silent pact forming between them. As Jayden walked away, Elena's victory fading behind him, his heart pounded. The trial was won, but a greater battle loomed, one of memory, blood, and secrets buried too long. Jordan watched him go, his empire's loss paling beside the possibility that the man who'd bested him was the brother he'd never known. Their scars, twin beacons, had sparked a fire that would soon consume their past, leading them to a truth as shattering as their long-ago parting. The dim glow of McGinty's bar wrapped Jayden and Jordan Carter in a cocoon of shadows, the soft clink of glasses and murmur of jazz, a fragile shield against the storm brewing between them. Jayden sat at a corner table, his beer untouched, fingers tracing the scar on his neck as if it could unlock the years stolen from him. Jordan slid into the opposite chair, whiskey in hand, his tailored jacket discarded, vulnerability seeping through his polished facade. The air crackled with unspoken questions, their identical faces a haunting mirror of a past neither fully grasped. Jayden broke the silence, his voice rough, edged with years of buried pain. "You're him, aren't you? Jordan, my brother." The words felt foreign, heavy, like stones dropped into still water. His eyes searched Jordan's, hunting for the boy he'd chased through a dusty courtyard. Jordan's grip tightened on his glass, his scar pulsing under the bar's faint light. "I see your face, and it's mine," he said, voice cracking. "But I was told I had no family. How is this real?" His gaze flickered, a mix of shock and yearning, as if Jayden were a ghost he'd longed to meet. Jayden leaned forward, his anger a slow burn. "I remember you," he said, voice low. "The orphanage, the car. I ran after you, screaming your name. I fell, cut my neck, same as yours. You looked back, Jordan, tears in your eyes. Then you were gone." The memory surged, vivid and raw, his knees hitting gravel, Jordan's small hands pressed against the window, their bonds severed by a stranger's choice. Jordan's breath hitched, a fragment of that day surfacing. I see it now," he whispered. "A boy running, crying. I pounded the glass, but they wouldn't stop." His eyes glistened, the CEO's armor crumbling. "I thought it was a dream, Jayden. They told me I was alone." The bartender, a grizzled man with a practiced indifference, refilled their drinks, sensing the weight of their words but keeping his distance. Jayden pulled a faded photo from his wallet, two toddlers, grinning, their arms slung around each other. "This was us," he said, sliding it across the table. "I kept it all these years. Didn't know if you were alive, but I couldn't let you go." Jordan traced the image, his fingers trembling. "I don't have anything like this," he said, voice breaking. "Just a hole where you should have been." He looked up, guilt etching his features. "You fought for everything. I got penthouses, private schools. Why didn't I look for you?" Jayden's jaw clenched, resentment flaring. "Because you had it easy," he snapped. "The Warrens gave you the world while I scraped by with the Millers. Love, yeah, but no money, no future handed to me. I fought bullies, hunger, despair, always wondering where you were." His voice shook, the years of abandonment pouring out. "You've got to forget me. I never could." Jordan flinched, the accusation ablaze. "I didn't choose it," he said, leaning forward, desperate. "I didn't know you existed, Jayden. They lied to me. Every birthday, every quiet night, I felt half alive, like part of me was missing. I thought I was broken." His eyes burned with sincerity, pleading for understanding. The bar's hum faded, their world narrowing to the table between them. Jayden's anger wavered, pierced by Jordan's raw confession. He saw not the CEO who'd fought him in court, but the boy who'd cried behind that car window. "We were kids," Jayden said, softer now. "They took you, and I couldn't stop them. But why? Why split us up?" Jordan's hand stilled on his glass, a memory sparking. "My father, Mr. Warren, he donated to the orphanage," he said, frowning. "Big checks, every year. He called it charity, but—" His voice trailed off, suspicion dawning. What if it wasn't just kindness? Jayden's eyes sharpened, his lawyer's instincts kicking in. "A payoff," he said, voice low. "To pick you, leave me behind. Why else erase you from my file? The possibility hung between them, a dark thread pulling at their past. Jordan nodded, his resolve hardening. We deserve the truth, he said, meeting Jayden's gaze. Who did this to us? Why? His voice carried a new edge, the CEO's steel blending with a brother's fury. Jayden studied him, seeing the boy he'd lost and the man he'd become. Resentment still simmered, but a spark of hope flickered, a chance to reclaim what was stolen. Then we dig, he said, his tone firm. Together. But don't think this makes us square, Jordan. I've carried you in my bones for 30 years. That doesn't just vanish. Jordan's lips curved, a faint, bittersweet smile. I don't expect it to, he said, but I want to know you, Jayden. The real you, not just the guy who tore my company apart. He raised his glass, a tentative gesture. To answer? Jayden hesitated, then clinked his bottle against Jordan's glass, sealing the pact. To answers, he echoed, the word heavy with promise. The bartender glanced over, sensing the shift, but their world was already elsewhere, locked in a vow to unearth the past. As they drained their drinks, the bar's shadows seemed to retreat, their bond, fractured but fierce, beginning to mend. The scars on their necks, twin marks of loss, now pulsed with purpose. They'd found each other, but the truth of their separation loomed, a beast waiting to be slain. The reunion was only the start, a spark that would ignite a firestorm of secrets, threatening to reshape their lives in ways neither could yet fathom. The flicker of a desk lamp cast jagged shadows across Jayden Carter's cluttered law office, where files teetered in stacks and coffee cups bore rings of late nights. Jayden hunched over his laptop, eyes burning as he scoured digitized orphanage records, each click a step deeper into the past that had torn him from Jordan. Across the room, Jordan paced, his tie loosened, the polished CEO unraveling into a man driven by a gnawing betrayal. The air was thick with tension, their newfound alliance tested by the weight of what they might uncover. Jayden's fingers paused, a scanned document filling the screen, a ledger entry from the day Jordan was adopted. Here, he said, voice tight, pointing at a figure. $50,000 labeled donation from Mr. Warren. This hit the orphanage's account hours after they took you. Charity, my ass. His scar itched, a phantom reminder of the day that payment had sealed his fate. Jordan stopped pacing, leaning over Jayden's shoulder, his jaw clenching. He always bragged about his giving back, he said, bitterness lacing his words. I thought it was goodwill. What the hell did he buy? His eyes, so like Jayden's, burned with a mix of guilt and fury, the man who'd idolized his adoptive father now questioning every memory. Jayden scrolled further, unearthing a memo buried in the files, its text chillingly clinical. Warren adoption, single child preferred, ensure no record of siblings. His breath caught, the words a dagger to the heart. They didn't just pick you, he said, voice low, almost a growl. They erased me, paid to make sure I didn't exist. He slammed a fist on the desk, papers scattering, the betrayal cutting deeper than any courtroom loss. Jordan's face paled, his hand gripping the chair. My father did this? He whispered, the word father tasting like ash. He chose me and left you to rot. Why? The question hung unanswered, a wound that bound them as surely as their scars. Jayden pushed back from the desk, his lawyer's mind racing. We need a witness, he said, regaining focus. Someone who saw it happen. He tapped a contact on his phone, a hacker friend from law school who'd helped with tough cases. I've got a lead on the orphanage's old staff. One name keeps popping up. Ms. Harrow, the administrator back then. She's retired, lives in Evanston. Jordan nodded, his resolve hardening. I'll get us a meeting, he said, pulling out his phone. Money talks, and I've got plenty. His voice held a steely edge, the CEO's power now a weapon for their shared fight. 2 days later, they sat in a quiet Evanston cafe, its warmth a stark contrast to the chill of their purpose. Ms. Harrow, a frail woman with nervous eyes, clutched her tea, her discomfort palpable as Jayden slid the memo across the table. We know what happened, he said, his tone calm but unyielding. Warren paid you to split us. Start talking. Ms. Harrow's cup rattled, tea sloshing. It was a different time, she stammered, avoiding their gazes. The orphanage was failing. Mr. Warren's money kept us open. He wanted one child, no complications. I followed orders. Her voice broke, guilt etching lines deeper into her face. Jayden leaned forward, his eyes blazing. Orders? He snapped. You sold my brother and wiped me out of existence. I was 4, left crying for him, and you cashed a check. His voice cracked. The boy he'd been bleeding through the man he'd become. Jordan placed a hand on Jayden's arm, a silent plea for calm, then turned to Ms. Harrow, his voice cold. You'll testify, he said, each word a command, or we go public. Every news outlet, every social platform. Your name will be synonymous with this. His scar glinted under the cafe's lights, a mirror to Jayden's. Their shared pain a quiet threat. Ms. Harrow nodded, tears spilling. I'll do it, she whispered. I'm sorry. I never forgot you boys. Her apology hung, hollow, unable to bridge 30 years of loss. Outside, the brothers stood by Jordan's car, the lakefront's wind biting their faces. Jayden's anger simmered, but Jordan's silence was heavier, his world upended. I idolized him, Jordan said finally, staring at the horizon. He built me up, but it was all lies. You deserve better, Jayden. Jayden met his gaze, resentment warring with understanding. We both did, he said, softer now. But we're not kids anymore. We take him down, his legacy, his secrets. His voice held a vow, the lawyer's fire blending with a brother's resolve. Jordan nodded, a faint smile breaking through. Together, he said, extending a hand. Jayden clasped it, their grip firm, scars aligned like a silent oath. The moment was fleeting, but it sealed their path forward, a partnership forged in pain but fueled by purpose. Back in Jayden's office, they mapped their next move. The memo's enough for a case, Jayden said, scribbling notes. Class action against the orphanage and Warren's estate. Others were split like us. I've seen the patterns. His eyes gleamed, the fight ahead a lifeline. Jordan leaned against the wall, his mind still on Ms. Harrow's words. What if there's more? He asked, voice low. Someone else knew. Someone closer. The thought lingered, a dark cloud hinting at a betrayal yet to come. Their scars, once marks of loss, now burned with defiance. The truth they'd uncovered was only the beginning, a thread that would unravel a tapestry of lies. As they stood together, the city's pulse beyond the window, Jayden and Jordan knew their fight would shake more than their past. It would forge their future, a reckoning that would echo far beyond the shadows of their childhood. The Chicago skyline glittered beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows of Jordan Carter's penthouse, a cold contrast to the firestorm brewing within. Jayden stood by the bar, his suit jacket slung over a chair, eyes locked on Jordan as his brother confronted the woman who'd raised him. Mrs. Warren, elegant in a silk dress, sat rigid on the leather sofa, her composure a fragile mask. The revelation of her husband's bribe to split the twins had cracked Jordan's world. But a darker question lingered. Had she known? The air was electric, their scars pulsing with the weight of truth yet to be unearthed. Jordan paced, his voice a low growl. Did you know I had a brother? He demanded, stopping to face her. Did you know about Jayden and keep him from me? His eyes, so like Jayden's, burned with a mix of hope and dread, pleading for a denial that wouldn't come. Mrs. Warren's hands trembled, her diamond bracelet glinting. Jordan, please, she began, voice soft, conciliatory. It's complicated. Her gaze flickered to Jayden, who leaned against the bar, silent but radiating fury, his scar a stark accusation. Complicated? Jayden cut in, stepping forward, his voice a controlled blaze. You let me rot in an orphanage while Jordan got your penthouse. If you knew, you chose his comfort over my life. Tell us the truth. His words sliced, the lawyer's precision honed by 30 years of pain. Mrs. Warren's mask slipped, tears pooling. I didn't know at first, she whispered, clutching her hands. When we adopted Jordan, your father said it was one child, no ties. Years later, I found papers, a letter from the orphanage mentioning a twin. I confronted him and he admitted it. He said it was for Jordan's future, to avoid complications. Her voice broke, guilt spilling over. Jordan froze, his face ashen. You knew, he said, each word a wound. You knew I had a brother and said nothing? For years. His voice rose raw with betrayal, the boy who'd trusted her clashing with the man she'd deceived. I wanted to protect you, she pleaded, standing, reaching for him. Your father's legacy, our family, it was all for you, Jordan. Telling you would have broken everything. Her tears fell, but they stirred no sympathy, only a deeper cut. Jayden's laugh was bitter, sharp. Protect him? He said, advancing. You protected your lies while I fought to survive. I was 4, crying for him, and you buried me to keep your perfect life. You're no mother. You're a coward. His scar burned, a mirror to Jordan's, their shared loss, a silent scream. Jordan stepped back, recoiling from her touch. I trusted you, he said, voice hollow. Every night I felt empty, and you let me believe I was alone. You let Jayden suffer. He turned away, staring at the city lights, his world crumbling. The scar on his neck throbbed, a tether to the brother he'd unknowingly abandoned. Mrs. Warren sank onto the sofa, sobbing. I'm sorry, she whispered, but the words were ash, unable to bridge the chasm. Jayden watched, his anger tempered by a flicker of pity, not for her, but for Jordan, who'd lost another piece of his past. Jordan turned to Jayden, his eyes resolute despite the pain. She chose lies, he said, voice steady now. I choose you, Jayden. You're my family. The words landed like a vow, their bond tightening against the wreckage of betrayal. Jayden nodded, a weightlifter, though resentment lingered. Then we finish this, he said, his tone firm. Together. They clasped hands, scars aligned, a silent promise to bury the Warren secrets once and for all. Days later, in a bustling law firm conference room, Jayden laid out their plan. Files on the orphanage and Warren's estate sprawled across the table, evidence of a corrupt adoption network. This is bigger than us, he told Jordan, pointing to a list of names. Other children separated for profit. Class action lawsuit. We sue the orphanage, the estate, and everyone who profited. Ms. Harrow's testimony is our cornerstone. Jordan, funding the fight, leaned back, his CEO's mind sharp. I've got contacts, media, influencers. We'll make this national, he said, eyes glinting. No one hides from this. His scar caught the light, a badge of their shared mission. The lawsuit launched with a press conference, reporters swarming outside the courthouse. Jayden faced the cameras, his voice a clarion call. This is for every child torn from their family by greed, he declared, Jordan at his side. Their unity a silent rebuke to the Warrens' legacy. The story exploded. Headlines, viral posts, families coming forward with their own tales of separation. That night in Jordan's penthouse, they watched the news, the city's pulse a backdrop to their quiet triumph. We're doing it, Jordan said, a rare smile breaking through. For you, for them. He raised a glass, whiskey catching the light. Jayden clinked his beer against it, his gaze softening. For us, he said, the word heavy with meaning. Their scars, once symbols of loss, now marked a path reclaimed. But the fight wasn't over. A deeper truth, a final reckoning, waited in the shadows, ready to test their bond to its breaking point. The Chicago morning buzzed with hope, sunlight streaming through the open doors of the newly christened Carter Twins Foundation. A community center alive with laughter and promise. Jayden Carter stood on a modest stage, his suit traded for a simple blazer, his scar a quiet badge of survival. Beside him, Jordan Carter, tie loosened, radiated a warmth that outshone his CEO Polish. The crowd, families, children, and reporters, hushed as the brothers prepared to speak. Their unity a beacon in a city that had witnessed their war against the past. Jayden gripped the podium, his voice steady, resonant with purpose. We lost each other once, he said, eyes sweeping the faces before him. Torn apart by greed, left to fight alone. This foundation ensures no child endures that pain. Every sibling deserves their family, and we're here to make it happen. Applause swelled, heartfelt and fierce, as parents nodded, some wiping tears, their own stories echoing the brothers' loss. Jordan stepped forward, his smile genuine, free of the corporate mask. This is our promise, he said, gesturing to the center's vibrant halls. To keep families whole, to give every kid a chance to dream. We've been where they are, scared, alone, and we'll fight for them. His scar caught the light, a twin to Jayden's, their shared journey etched in every word. The crowd roared, hands clapping, phones flashing, capturing a moment of redemption. The ribbon cutting was a blur of cheers, scissors glinting as Jayden and Jordan sliced through the crimson band. Children darted past, chasing balloons, their laughter a melody that soothed old wounds. The center buzzed, classrooms for tutoring, a gym for play, offices for reuniting siblings torn apart by broken systems. Families embraced, some meeting siblings for the first time, their joy a mirror of the brothers' hard-won bond. Later in the center's garden, Jayden and Jordan walked among blooming flowers, the city's hum a distant pulse. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of fresh earth and possibility. A plaque gleamed nearby. Carter Twins Foundation, keeping families whole. Jayden traced its letters, his fingers lingering, a quiet smile breaking through. "Never thought I'd be here," he said, glancing at Jordan. "Building this, with you." Jordan chuckled, leaning against a bench, his eyes bright. "Me neither," he said, voice soft. "We lost 30 years, Jayden, but we've got a lifetime to make it right." His scar, once a mark of absence, now felt like a vow, tying him to the brother he'd found again. They stood in silence, the garden's peace a balm for scars, both seen and unseen. The lawsuit had been a triumph, its verdict a seismic wave. The orphanage's corruption, exposed through Ms. Harrow's testimony and reams of evidence, crumbled under national scrutiny. The Warren estate, stripped of its veneer, paid millions in reparations, funding the foundation and reuniting dozens of families. Headlines hailed the brothers. Twins turned tragedy into triumph. But for Jayden and Jordan, the victory was personal, a past reclaimed, a future forged. Jayden's thoughts drifted to the courtroom where it began, his clash with Jordan a spark that had ignited truth. He'd fought for Elena, for justice, never imagining it would lead him to his brother. Now, mentoring young lawyers at the center, he saw his younger self in their fire, guiding them to fight for the voiceless as he'd done. Jordan, too, found purpose beyond his empire. At the center, he taught entrepreneurship to teens, their ambition a mirror of his own. Carter Innovations thrived, reformed by lessons learned, but the foundation was his heart's work. He'd cut ties with Mrs. Warren, her betrayal a closed chapter, and found family in Jayden, their bond stronger than any lie. A young girl approached, clutching a drawing of two stick figures under a sun. "For you," she said shyly, handing it to Jayden. "You helped find my brother." Her eyes shone, and Jayden knelt, accepting the gift with a grin. "Looks just like us," he said, showing Jordan, who laughed, ruffling the girl's hair. The moment was small but profound, a ripple of the change they'd sparked. As the sun dipped, casting golden hues over the garden, the brothers sat on the bench, the plaque glinting beside them. "Think they'd be proud?" Jordan asked, voice quiet, meaning their parents, lost so long ago. Jayden nodded, his gaze distant. "They'd see us together doing this," he said. "That's enough." His scar, once a wound, felt like a bridge now, linking past to present. He clapped Jordan's shoulder, the gesture easy, familiar, a language only brothers share. The center's doors stayed open, welcoming more families, each story a thread in the tapestry the brothers wove. Their scars, twin marks of pain, had become symbols of resilience, proof that love could mend what greed had broken. As laughter echoed from the halls, Jayden and Jordan stood, ready to face whatever came next, side by side. Their journey, born in a dusty courtyard and forged in a courtroom's fire, had carved a legacy greater than loss. The Carter Twins Foundation wasn't just a building, it was a promise, a testament to a bond that no force could sever. And as the city's lights flickered on, the brothers knew their story, though scarred, was far from over. Jayden and Jordan's journey, from a heart-wrenching split to a triumphant reunion, shows that love and justice can heal the deepest scars. Their story isn't just theirs, it's a beacon for anyone fighting to reclaim what's lost. What did you think of their bond? Share your thoughts below. Thank you for listening, for joining us on this emotional ride. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to catch more gripping tales. Tell us where you're tuning in from and what you hope happens next for the twins. Until our next story, stay connected and keep believing in second chances.